Hi there. Today's podcast is about the epigenetic diet revolution and how it can benefit your life.
Hi and welcome to the One Life Wellbeing podcast, where your well-being always comes first. We're your hosts, Greg, Beran and Chris, and we're here to help you really make the most of your life. We're going to do this by sharing all the best ways to put well-being right at the heart of every day. So join us every week to feel better, to look great, and to start to really enjoy life, because that's what wellness really means. Okay, if you're ready, let's get started. Hi, I'm Greg Parry.
And I'm Beran Parry.
And we're really glad you could join us this week because we have a very interesting podcast to share with you. We're going to be looking at a very special subject, and we're looking at a revolution in a way that people think about their food. It's called the Epigenetics Diet Revolution. And before we go any further, I think we need to get a much clearer idea of what epigenetics really means. So hey, Beran, give me a clue. What's it all about?
Well, epigenetics is a vast subject, but what we're going to do today is talk about it in more simple terms. So we're going to look at our DNA, which is really about what it is that happens when our behavior and our eating changes the structure within our DNA.
Okay. Well, the little I understand about this, and you've taught me everything I know, is that the DNA isn't fixed. Is that right?
It's not fixed, and it is determined, and the changes are determined by what we do, which is incredible, really, if you think about it. So that means that what we eat or how we behave or the stress that we have in our lives can really affect how the DNA works, and it can work for us or against us.
That's a pretty amazing statement. I mean, I know why so many research institutes are getting really excited about some of the conclusions because, I mean, guys from my age, my generation, we were always taught that your DNA is set in concrete. If you've got all kinds of weird DNA going on, you are doomed to have all kinds of potential health problems. But epigenetics is saying, no, that's a very old-fashioned, antiquated view. Epigenetics says it's lifestyle, it's what you eat. And that's what I really want to talk to you about. How exactly does diet impact on the way your genes work?
Well, that's what's really exciting, because the news is that we can be totally empowered by what we're eating to improve the quality of our DNA expression, of our genetic expression. And by doing that, we're going to have so much opportunity to improve the quality of our lives. It's very interesting. Yeah,
it sounds pretty exciting. I want to start off really by getting an idea of what sort of foods we should be avoiding. What is top of your hate list?
Unfortunately, the worst is the sugar.
Oh no.
That sweet, white and deadly stuff that we all talk about. I think it's becoming so obvious that having this sugar in our diets is what's causing a lot of the problems that we face today, a lot of the health problems, and more scientific studies are pointing towards this fact. Okay.
I know a lot of people with a sweet tooth are now just rolling over, ready to quit, because we just have sugar everywhere. I mean, it's almost in every food you could imagine. What exactly is the problem with sugar?
The problem with sugar is very much about how it affects our insulin. And the fact that also it causes a lot of inflammation in our bodies.
Really?
And that leads to a lot of disease. And that's the unfortunate part, because we eat the sugar and we don't realize what it's doing to our DNA. And that's quite scary.
Sure. Well, tell me, I mean, what kind of inflammation are you talking about?
It could be inflammation of the gut, it could be inflammation of the muscular structures, even the brain can be affected, nervous system, it's quite extensive.
Well, I don't know, I was reading something the other day that said it's probably one of the most pervasive toxins in the world today. I mean, is that an exaggeration or what?
I don't think it is anymore, because more and more studies are proving that this is simply not the case, that sugar really is causing a lot of health issues, and the more that we are able to avoid eating the synthetic forms of sugar, the more healthy we will be.
So tell me, how does sugar affect you? Sugar.
That's quite funny, really. I don't eat much sugar myself, and I actually went along and had a glucose tolerance test just to discover what sugar might do to me. And to be honest, I was absolutely horrified. It took me almost 3 months to recover from having a large amount of sugar when my body wasn't used to it.
What, did they give you one of those really heavy-duty, concentrated, sugary drinks just to test how your blood absorbs sugar? Is that how it works?
They did, and it was incredible. The negative effect started within minutes, and it lasted throughout the day, making me feel really, really ill. And they also measured my blood, and the level of insulin was astronomical, and I felt very, very ill. So it gave me a very clear idea of how it really feels and what it does to the body.
Yeah. I know that you're a really strong advocate for encouraging people to quit sugar. And, from your experience, you probably know how potentially dangerous it is to people's health. Is there anything else that people should avoid when they're looking at their health and their genes?
One of the worst areas are toxins, and they come across in our food without us even realizing it, and this is the difficulty. But when you consider the additives and the chemicals that are added to the food...
Is that what you mean by toxins?
Yeah, toxins in processed foods.
Okay.
So this also has a very negative impact on our DNA.
What do you mean? Epigenetics is what? You have switches in the genes that can be on or off, and the diet, what you're eating, can produce this incredible effect where, let's say you've got a tendency for a disease. If you have the wrong diet, that disease suddenly pops up because your genes have got this signal, switch on, produce the disease. So it's really connected to diet. Is that right?
That is right, and it interferes with the methylation process, which is really just the way in which the DNA is switched on and switched off.
Amazing.
And the genetic expression especially is switched on and switched off.
Okay, I'm making notes here, by the way. I'm putting a big line through sugar. Sugar's gone. Okay, what else is on your list of things to avoid?
I think we also need to look at how we eat dairy products or don't eat dairy products would be the real thing to talk about. So dairy is a very, very debatable subject, and one that is considered to be very, very uppermost now in the area of how it affects the genetic structures in the body.
Let's get personal. My body assimilates dairy really well. I'm not saying it's necessarily good for me, but I don't get any side effects from it. Is this a personal thing? Is it an individual reaction, or is it just general across the population?
It can be individual. Some people will be more tolerant than others.
Yeah.
But if you consider what is the milk, it's coming from a cow. Is it appropriate for us to be drinking that? In the Paleolithic age, was it appropriate then? And did the people in those days drink that kind of substance? And you'd have to look at whether it really is the best thing for the body.
I know, that's a good point.
So it's the overall aspect of dairy.
But eggs are supposed to be okay?
I think that eggs are okay, especially if you consider that you could gather them in the wild.
All right. Because eggs are normally listed as dairy, but would you say they're an exception?
They are, because it's very high quality protein.
Okay. Now, I've got a good list here. We've knocked out sugars. You're saying we have to look out for additives. Does that mean checking labels?
It really means checking labels.
I knew you were going to say that.
And checking them really thoroughly and looking very carefully at what chemicals were involved in the processing of the food.
I know you're a big fan of checking all the labels.
And anything in a packet you've got to be really wary of right from the beginning.
So you just need to really, really be disciplined and check the labels. What about in an environment where stuff isn't labelled? How do you check whether you're having, fruit or veg that's been processed or it's been sprayed with chemicals?
Produce, fruit and vegetables, these are products that if you were able to choose organic versions, it would always be better. Of course, if it's not organic, there is always the risk. However, if you consider washing really carefully and being just very aware and conscious of where the product actually came from, that could give you a good idea of what type of chemicals might have been sprayed on the product.
Okay, now we've built up in a very short amount of time a really wonderful, interesting hit list of things to take out of the diet. Let's turn it to a more positive frame here. What would you recommend people eat just to make sure that their genes get the best possible chance to be normal and healthy?
I think high quality protein is really important as well.
But what does that mean for you? What's your favourite high quality protein?
If we're talking about animal protein, grass-fed protein is really important.
Okay.
And also, if you're going to have fowl or poultry, looking at organic versions are really going to be the best route to go. And then considering game as an option as well.
What game do you mean? What's that mean?
Any animal that's hunted is going to be the best quality
Was
meat.
there like boar and deer and stuff like that?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Is that stuff seasonal?
It is, and it very much was all those years ago.
Okay.
So anything that's in season is always going to be the preferred choice.
Well, I know some of the people who are listening to us are going to be recoiling in horror, and you will be the vegans because you're the guys who are saying we don't eat meat, and we totally respect your point of view. But I guess what we're really doing here is we're looking at some generalities about how our ancestors would have eaten, how they would have pursued a much healthier lifestyle. And we're just trying to capture the spirit of that particular way of living and see how we can interpret it in today's world. And you're saying that high quality protein is an important part of the modern diet.
Yeah, I think that also just bringing that vegan idea in as well.
Yeah.
Hemp protein would be a really good substitute if you are a vegan. And I think it's important to consider that those people that are vegans, that we respect their ideal and that they use hemp protein powder to
I've read some good
replace.
stuff about hemp protein.
It's
Apparently
a
like
very
the
good quality.
number one, source of protein. If you're not getting your protein from animal produce, then hemp protein is, it's the ideal substitute. What about fish? I know you like fish.
Fish is a great subject. Line-caught fish is really the best one to go for. It's natural, it's fresh, it hasn't been farmed. Of course, once you farm the fish, what happens then is that there could be antibiotics added to the water.
True. Yeah,
there could be growth hormone added to the water.
All that good stuff.
That's right. And then you're in the world of farmed protein again.
Which you're saying is definitely to be avoided.
It is, yes.
Of course. My list is looking good. Look, we've got a list of things we need to avoid. We've identified some things that we should have. I want to get on to one of your favourite subjects. I'm just going to surprise people. Vegetables. Come on, hit me. What is it about you and vegetables?
Vegetables are a wonderful source of carbohydrate, and the good carbohydrates are really important in any kind of epigenetic dietary system, because we do need carbohydrates for energy, and choosing several different types of vegetables in each day would be the ideal choice.
But I mean, are you a fan of cooking or raw or both?
Both. Raw. I sometimes say raw before 4. So if you would like to have your raw vegetables, have them, especially early on in the day.
Yeah. Why is that?
It's because it digests more easily.
Okay.
But it's not important if you have your raw later on, and if you have cooked for lunch, that works well as well.
That's such an interesting point. We've got a great friend who is a functional medicine doctor, and she always maintains the best way to heal your gut is raw vegetables. Is that right?
That is right. And you can juice them as well, which is fantastic. Raw vegetable juices in the morning is one of the wonderful aspects of my daily start, and it really works for me. Okay.
We've picked up sugars, additives, and dairy as being the things that we have to reduce or cut out of the daily diet. You've identified raw vegetables. You've put hemp protein into the slot. You've put vegetables right at the top of your list. What are your feelings about fruit?
Fruit is excellent. However, we have to watch the high sugar fruit, because if we overeat high sugar fruit,
what's a high sugar fruit?
High sugar fruit could be grapes, watermelon.
Oh yeah, the really sweet stuff.
That's right, because if we overeat those fruits, we're back in the high glucose, high fructose area again. Okay. But I think what I also like to touch on is the fact that one of the areas that would be really good to focus on is the high quality fat area. So eating lots of seeds.
Now you're surprising me. Now you're shocking me.
Absolutely. Seeds and nuts work so well for us. And avocados, of course. Yeah. These are essential staples of the epigenetic diet.
I mean, I was brought up with the distinct idea that all fats are taboo. I mean, you've just got to keep fats away. But you're saying that's not really what modern science is telling us. Is that right?
That's not true.
Yeah.
We were gathering nuts and seeds hundreds and hundreds of years ago and living really well and healthily on those nuts and seeds.
Okay, so it can be a natural part of your diet, and that's a good source of fat.
It is an excellent source of fat.
So it's the processed fats that are going to cause you the problem. Am I on the right track here?
You are certainly on the right track.
Okay.
Yes. The processed fats are the problem areas.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think we could add to the diet, especially the epigenetic diet, to make sure that your health is really boosted to the max and you reduce all those chances of nasty diseases?
There's one other thing that we should take away from the diet, and we have to be careful about this area.
Okay.
And it is a grain, and it contains a lot of gluten, and it is wheat, of course. There is a lot of talk about gluten, and gluten definitely can cause inflammation in the gut.
Yeah.
And gluten is actually a whole new subject, but it relates very clearly to the epigenetic way of eating.
So you've got to cut out wheat.
We do need to cut out wheat and possibly other grains too.
Okay. I think there's some people looking at the bread bin thinking, oh no, I've got to cut out bread. But I do know there's good research. I mean, some fabulous research, very recent work saying that you're absolutely right. Cutting out grains can make a massive difference to inflammation.
That's right, but you don't need to cut out bread, because you could make the bread with almond flour, coconut flour. There are other options that
you got alternatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So these could be really delicious.
Okay, look, before we wrap this up, it sounded a little bit dramatic. It's actually a very exciting subject because people are learning how to influence and control their genes through their diet, which is an incredibly powerful story. I don't want anybody to go away with the idea that just because you have to change your diet in some way, you feel you've got to give up good quality, tasty food. So tell me a little about the way you can interpret these things in terms of recipes.
There are some wonderfully delicious recipes out there. They use all the correct ingredients and they taste just as good, if not better, than the old gluten recipes that we used to have.
And the cool thing is, of course, that it's doing you good instead of bad.
Exactly.
Okay. Beran, I want to thank you for sharing that information with us today. And I hope you guys have enjoyed picking up some of the information we wanted to share with you. It's an important subject, and our message is very much to enhance wellness at every level. And hey, it also includes the things you're eating every single day. We want to thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to being with you again at the next session. See you soon.
And thank you so much for having me on the session.
You're so welcome.
I really enjoyed it.
You're so welcome. Bye, everybody.
Bye.